I did ask Sean to join early to reduce my stress level, but I don't say, and I don't have a phone number for him.
Do you have an email for him?
I have an email for him. Let me send him. Please join the meeting.
Sherry, I believe Sean is here.
Yeah, there he is. Yay. Hi, Sean. Thank you so much for doing this at the last minute. We really would have been in a pickle with Susan not being available. So are you going to use her presentation? Is that your standard? You're muted.
No, he's not.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, okay, yeah.
He's good now.
Sean, I couldn't hear him. Sean? Hi, Sean?
I think he's trying to fix his audio. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Sorry. You all are my 14th Zoom meeting of the day, so sometimes my microphone decides that it needs a little break. So, yes, I'm going to be using the same presentation as Susan would.
Great. All right. And do you know, I wanted to touch upon absentee voting. Can I have some information. Can you speak on that also?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we figured at the end we should touch upon that because that's starting to, people are starting to apply. Great. Good.
Did you all want to run a mock election? Did you want to participate in it?
Tonight or?
Yes, as part of the presentation.
Oh, sure, that'll be fun.
Great.
Yeah, we have 2 hours. We're going to start. Assembly member Seawright asked to come on just to make her announcement about her new early voting sites that she got.
Yes.
So we're going to start with her, and then I'll give you an introduction and turn it over to you.
Great.
This is
Before we do that, oh, sorry, go ahead, Shari.
No, go ahead, Max.
Oh, I was gonna say, before we do that, I'm just gonna do the pre-meeting speech.
Yeah, why don't you wait a little bit? We only have
Oh,
11 people on. No, we can do that obviously at the very, very beginning.
Sure.
Okay.
And so once we get to that part, I'll need screen sharing as well.
I'm sorry, Sean, I walked away.
No problem. Once we get to that part of the program, I'll need screen sharing capabilities.
Sure,
Yeah.
that'll be no problem.
Yeah, we have Max is on and he'll assist anything that that you need done.
Max, are you the Zoom master?
I don't know if I'm that proficient, but I'll help as I can.
Awesome.
Sean, this group of, this is part of Community Board 8, Manhattan, and we formed a voting reform task force to do programs like this and to also locate new voting locations. So it's a very active group, but it's also open to the public. So we typically have, almost 100 people on these calls. So it's a really good public education mechanism for our community.
That's great.
And I don't know if you see Anthony, he's my co-chair. Who's of course going to take the minutes, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
I always feel bad because I know you're so busy with zoning, but I can't do both at the same.
No, it's okay. I actually enjoy writing minutes.
Okay, all
That was a
right.
terrible thing to confess, but I did.
All right. Well, then I don't feel so bad.
Okay. You can
Always
still
ask-
feel bad.
I can
but
feel, all right, I can feel
Yeah.
bad, all right, but you don't mind doing it, so that's good.
Max, if you make me a co-host now, I should also be able to post the link to the mock election in the chat for everyone.
Oh, sure. I'm not sure about that, but if you send it to me, I can put it in there.
Okay.
Let's just give a few more minutes. And many of our task force members aren't on yet.
Hi, it's Rita. I just want you to know that I just passed the refresher course for a poll worker.
Oh,
So
Okay,
I had to take, it was a 76 slide presentation, but it was very informative and very good. So I just wanted you to know.
so now you know how to, was part of the training on ranked choice voting?
The whole thing was on, right?
Okay, so now you know how to, maybe you'll share some comments with us during the program.
Yeah, I
Great.
will do.
Great. Good. Okay. Well, let's give it a couple more minutes and see if Assembly Member Seawright jumps on.
Oh, I see she's joining currently.
Oh, perfect. All right, then let's just welcome her. Okay. Oh, so we see Assembly Member Seawright has joined. So I think what do you think, Max? Shall we start or up to?
Yeah, I am ready if you are.
Okay, why don't you give your spiel?
Sounds good. I will do that. So welcome, everyone. If this is your first time joining us, everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except committee co-chairs, Gary and Anthony, and presenters. Following the presentation, co-chairs will call on members of the public that wish to speak. You can participate at that time by going to the reactions icon and pressing raise hand, not the thumbs up feature or wave feature. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. Be on the lookout at that time for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting, once the co-chairs call on you. The chat is for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems and not to ask questions of the co-chairs. They won't be able to see the chats. If you have an older version of Zoom, you'll need to go to the participants section at the bottom of your screen and you'll find the raise hand feature there. And finally, don't wave at the screen or raise your actual hand because we may not be able to see. Go ahead, Shari and Anthony.
Is the assembly member on or is Courtney on? That's what
Courtney is on.
Courtney, we're waiting for Rebecca. Is she
I've unmuted her.
Court?
Yeah, but
You just
she
have to
hasn't unmuted,
click
so
to.
come on.
She chatted me and said that the assemblywoman would be joining shortly.
Okay, let's give her another moment
Thanks,
because I
Wes.
don't want to interrupt Sean's presentation.
And Max, I sent you a message with a link to the mock election. In Word.
Yes, I put that in the chat a moment ago. So everyone should be able to see it in your chats.
And Max, whenever they're ready to start that, you may want to put it back in the chat then too.
Okay, that is a good idea. Thank you.
Because if somebody joins or leaves and rejoins, the chat won't be there.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, I can start talking about what tonight's program is going to be about. Obviously, unless you've been living in a cave, you know that New York City has a primary election on June 22nd. And for the first time, we will be using ranked choice voting. So we're very pleased. So this will be the Community Board 8 Manhattan's presentation on ranked choice voting. But before we start, and we have a special guest who's going to be talking to us about that, our Assembly member, Rebecca Seawright, has some very exciting and wonderful news for us dealing with her efforts to get us early voting sites so we don't have the fiasco we had the last time, early voting at the Wagner Middle School. So I know she's just getting off a town hall meeting, so I'll give her another moment before we start. Otherwise, we'll get started and we'll just break off if she gets on.
I see Courtney actually has said, please start without, we are running over on
The other meeting. Okay, I was afraid of that because that was not supposed to be over till 7. I thought we might be cutting it close. Okay, so let's start talking about ranked choice voting. This was we voted this in as part of the 2019 referendum on charter change, and ranked choice voting, which we'll be talking about in a second, allows you to vote for not just one candidate, but 5 candidates for mayor, public advocate, controller, borough president, city council, but not district attorney. We had anticipated that Susan Lerner from Ranked Choice Voting and Common Cause, who had done a wonderful presentation for us on absentee voting, would be our speaker this evening, but she had an emergency and had to, at the last minute, was not able to participate tonight. But we were very fortunate and very thankful that Sean Duger, who was the Education Campaign Program Director for Rank the Vote New York City, has agreed to fill in for Susan and teach us all about ranked choice voting. Let me give you a little background on Sean. He is a political and nonprofit consultant with nearly 2 decades of experience. Sean has worked with a number of nonprofit, good government, and social justice organizations, organizing around issues such as police accountability, expanded access to the ballot box, and voting systems like ranked choice voting. To date, Sean has worked on or managed over a dozen candidates and issue campaigns, excuse me, including coordinating Democratic Party and African American outreach, for California State Treasurer John Shang, organizing faith conversations in support of marriage equality, rallying Bay Area communities in opposition to the death penalty and in favor of criminal justice reform, as well as a campaign that registered over 10,000 new voters in Alameda County in 2004. So I think we are in very good hands with Sean teaching us how we're going to do ranked choice voting. And he just surprised me to tell me we can actually going to take a vote, do a poll and take a vote during the meeting. So you're really going to get hands-on experience. So Sean, I turn the program over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you all this evening. As I said, my name is Sean Dugar. I'm the Education Campaign Program Director for Rank the Vote NYC. If you couldn't tell from my bio, I hail from the Bay Area of California, where for the last decade, I've been running ranked choice candidate campaigns, conducting ranked choice voting education campaigns, and traveling the country, sharing my experiences and advocating in support of ranked choice voting. So really excited to be with you all. Max, if you can do me a favor and post that link one more time for me.
Sure.
And
you have screen sharing as well, just so you know.
Okay, awesome. I will ask each of you to click that link and rank your favorite Asian noodle dish. And so we will go through those results in about 5 minutes. So if you want to go through that process, and then we'll see the results. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can everyone see it? We're good to go?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to start off exploring the changes that are coming to New York elections and how we got here. So many of you may remember in 2009, there was a costly low turnout runoff election held for public advocate and comptroller that prompted a debate over the use of runoff elections. In that election, only 250,000 Democrats showed up out of almost 3 million registered citywide. And the city spent $20 million to host that election. So in 2010, then City Council member Gail Brewer introduced the first ranked choice voting legislation. In 2010 and again in 2018, charter revision commissions met. And one of the issues they explored was the possible usage of ranked choice voting for local elections. That 2018 commission held dozens of public hearings in every corner of the city, every borough, and heard from hundreds and hundreds of community residents and organizations in support of ranked choice voting. So that same 2018 commission voted 14-1 to place what became question 1 on the November 2019 ballot. And New York voters overwhelmingly, by nearly 75% of the vote, voted to enact ranked choice voting in New York City. So starting this year, we've had our first elections. So why ranked choice voting and why now? As you all, I'm sure know, the city recently implemented term limits for city council members. That's led to 32 open council seats this election cycle alone. Those 32 open council seats, along with the robust campaign finance system that the city offers, has led to a wealth of diverse candidates. Last count was 411 people filing to run in the June primary election. Under the previous system, those candidates would have risked splitting the vote and someone being elected who doesn't represent the diversity of the city or of the district. Also under the previous system, a council member could be elected with as little as 20% of the vote. That means that 80% of voters voted for someone else and did not have their voice heard in the final results of that election. Wow. That's bad for democracy, and that's bad for governance. So what's changing? Starting this year, all local primary and special elections for city council, borough president, public advocate, comptroller, and mayor will be ranked choice voting elections. That means that you will now have the option to rank up to your top 5 favorite candidates in each race, and that includes a write-in if you so choose. It also means that runoffs are eliminated, so we no longer have to worry about that second costly low turnout election, but also that candidates need at least 50% plus 1 of the vote in order to win. So here are some dates to remember. The primary election is Tuesday, June 22nd. The last day to register to vote is May 28th. The last day to change your address is June 2nd if you're already registered. Early voting starts on a very, very, very special day. Hopefully you all have it marked on your calendars already. It's Saturday, June 12th. It's my birthday. So in lieu of gifts and money, well, I might still take money, but in lieu of gifts, you can definitely go and early vote on Saturday, June 12th, and that runs through Sunday, June 20th. So how do you think about ranking your candidates? We like to say your first choice is the candidate you love. It's the candidate you may volunteer for or contribute to, but at the very least, it's the candidate you're talking to your friends, your family, and your neighbors about. It's that person who's from your community, who shares your values and shares your positions on issues. Similarly, your second choice may not be from your community, but they still share your positions on issues and share your values. Your third and your fourth choice may not be there with you on all of your positions, may not share all of your values, but you still think would do a good job in office. And your fifth choice is, maybe historically the candidate you had to hold your nose to vote for. They're definitely not your favorite, but they're definitely not a candidate you dislike. As in any election, never vote for someone you do not like. Ranked choice voting does not change that. However, your fifth choice is someone you still think will do an okay job in office, and definitely better than the other people that are on the ballot and in the race that you're not including in your rankings. So I'm going to show a quick video, and then we will jump into the mock election.
I'm here.
Hi, I'm Mahir, and welcome to my bodega. As you may know, New York City has a new way to vote in special and primary elections. So, how does ranked choice voting work? The next time you vote in a city election, instead of choosing just one candidate, you can rank them all from your first choice to your fifth. Here's how it works. Let's say my bodega is picking its featured snack of the month. So many choices! Which one should I feature? This customer ranks Parker Pretzels as her top favorite. She also ranks her second choice, Mr. Chips, third choice, Chi-Chi Chicharrones, fourth choice, Gladys Gummies, and fifth choice, Poppy Popcorn. Other customers rank their choices as well. If Parker Pretzels is the favorite choice and wins more than 50% of all the first ranked choices, then Parker Pretzels is the winner and is featured as the snack of the month. However, if no snack gets more than 50%, then the least popular snack is eliminated. Sorry, Figgy Bars. The remaining second-ranked choices from customers who chose Figgy Bars are redistributed. So if customers chose chips and chicharrones as second choices, then those two snacks receive additional votes. The new totals are counted and the process repeats until there's a winner of the final two. Congrats, Poppy Popcorn, you're the bodega snack favorite. Back in the real world, before it's time to vote for humans, visit rankthevotenyc.org for more information. Thank you, New York City, for voting and for making these special and primary elections your elections.
All right, so that is an example from Bodega World. Let's jump into a real world example. Hopefully you all had an opportunity to vote in that mock election, and we will go through the results. So we've been running this mock election for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and have had 522 people vote so far. So keep in mind, in ranked choice voting, the threshold that someone needs in order to win is 50% plus one of the votes. So in this instance, that means 262 votes are needed in order to win. Here we see amongst first choice votes that no noodle dish has reached that threshold of 262 votes. We see Japanese ramen in the lead with 129 votes, pad thai with 91 votes, hand-pulled noodles with 57, drunken noodles with 53, pho with 49, pad see ew with 41, fried noodles with 30, udon with 29, chow fun with 24, and beef noodle soup with 19. So again, because no dish has reached that threshold, we go into the process of rounds or eliminations, which means that the candidate, or in this case, the noodle dish with the lowest number of votes is eliminated first. And so beef noodle soup will see those 19 people that voted for it as their first choice have their votes redistributed to whoever they chose as their second choice. And so here we see udon picked up a large number of second choice votes, as well as hand-pulled noodles. Still, no dish has reached that threshold of 262 votes. So we continue the process of eliminating the lowest vote getter. So chow fun will be eliminated next, and its 24 voters will see their votes redistributed to whoever they chose as their next choice. And see, here we see that was actually spread pretty evenly across noodle dishes. Again, still no dish has hit that threshold of 262 votes. So we continue eliminating the lowest vote getter and having their votes redistributed to whoever their voters chose as their next choice. And the process keeps going and going and going until eventually we come down to the final two candidates. So in New York, we always run down to the final two choices, or final two candidates. And we see that Japanese ramen has not only hit that threshold of 50% plus one of the vote, but it's actually won with almost 53% of the vote. The other thing that I will point out here at the bottom, I know it's in gray, so it may be a little hard to see. It says exhausted votes. There were only 35 exhausted votes. That means there's only 35 people out of 522 who did not include either pad thai or Japanese ramen somewhere in the rankings on their ballot. That means there's
Sean, I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is Max. I have to let the co-chairs know right now that Rebecca Seawright is ready to speak.
Oh, great.
I'm not sure if
10 seconds and I can hand it over.
sounds good.
All right. So there are only 35 voters who did not include either Japanese ramen or pad thai in their rankings. That's less than 10% of voters. That means that's a big difference from that 80% of people not having a say in the results of an election compared to, or in previous elections. With that, I will stop my screen share and hand it back over to you all.
See. Go ahead. Oh, you're unmuted. Sorry. Go ahead. Miss Seawright, you can go ahead.
Sure, you're muted.
Hi, good evening. I'm Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright. And Sean, that was an excellent presentation. I want to thank the co-chairs of Community Board 8, Sherry Weiner and Anthony Cohen, and a number of other community board members on tonight, Rita and Michelle and my neighbor, Wendy. Apologize for being late. Our town hall ran over. So, but I wanted to, just make an announcement, which many of you have probably heard. Back in October of 2020, 118,000 people were sent to Wagner Middle School for early voting, which was just totally unacceptable. And we threatened a lawsuit against the commissioners of the Board of Elections and secured Marymount Manhattan College. Dr. Carrie Walk stepped up and offered for the last weekend of early voting her campus, which did relieve some of the overcrowding. But I heard horror stories of people that stood in line, even in the rain, up to 6 hours to cast their vote in what some say is the most important election possibly of their lifetime. So our office has been working really hard to secure early voting sites, especially for Roosevelt Island. We, in conjunction with REOC, and I know Judy Birdie from the Historical Society has been a tremendous help, we secured the sports park for an early voting site on Roosevelt Island. Additionally, we worked with the Board of Elections to secure the Metropolitan Museum of Art, who had originally said they could not do it, but we pushed, and luckily they reversed. And so the Metropolitan Museum of Art will be an early voting site, as well as Dr. Carrie Walk from Marymount Manhattan College has stepped up again, and her campus will be a site. We're opposed to having these in public schools, and we're looking to get it out of Wagner Middle School. We looked at the Blood Bank Center, the Bohemian Hall, and other locations to try to come up with one more site. But it looks like there will be about 4,100 people that will be directed to vote early that choose that option at Wagner Middle School. For this upcoming election, it's going to be, of course, as you know, the first time on ranked choice voting, and it's so important as we elect the mayor and other important offices that people understand ranked choice voting. So again, I appreciate the community board offering this lecture this evening. Our office has been working on reforming our election process. The governor signed my Assembly Bill 9001 to save taxpayer resources and to promote efficiency and transparency by allowing candidates to duly satisfy local and state requirements in order to run for office. I'm a co-sponsor and strongly support the following measures passed by the Assembly this session, expanding voters' access to the ballot in New York. We passed legislation to expand absentee ballot voting in New York, removing the constitutional barrier for no excuse absentee ballots and allowing voters to request ballots online. A second constitutional change adopted in the Assembly would permit the legislature to allow voters to register to vote on Election Day. These measures would make it easier for voters to register and to cast their ballots. This is the second passage for both of these constitutional amendments. In the next step in the process, they'll go before the New York voters for approval in a referendum. We passed several bills I'm pleased to co-sponsor to reform the absentee ballot process in New York State. Under current New York State law, a voter must provide a specific reason for why they will not be able to vote in person in order to obtain an absentee ballot, unless they're on a permanent absentee ballot request. A constitutional amendment adopted by the Assembly would eliminate that requirement, allowing for no excuse absentee voting. The Assembly also passed legislation that would allow voters to request their absentee ballots electronically, increasing accessibility while maintaining the level of safety that is required due to the COVID pandemic. Another bill I'm proud to lend my support passed the Assembly, ensuring that absentee ballots can be postmarked up until the day of the election, consistent with the deadline for hand-delivered absentee ballots. A second constitutional amendment would eliminate the requirement that voters register to vote at least 10 days before an election. This constitutional change would allow the legislature to authorize the registration of voters on Election Day, otherwise known as same-day registration, which many states already have. I ask that you please consider our office as a resource for any of your questions you may have regarding the upcoming elections or other legislative or community issues. We're pleased to be sponsoring, backed by popular demand, this Sunday, a shred-a-thon in conjunction with the Sanitation Department over on 77th Street at John Jay Park. So I'll let you continue on with your meeting this evening. It was great to drop in and make these announcements about early voting. I encourage you all to call our office if you have questions, neighbors or friends, as we head into the final time period for that important primary election. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Sean, I've unmuted you and you may continue. Let me make sure you have, and you can go back to sharing your screen if you can.
Awesome. Great. The Assembly member has already seen this presentation because we did a joint session together recently. So I will jump back in and feel free to type any questions you may have in the chat and we'll get to them shortly. So this is an example of what your ballot is likely to look like. And so you see here, there are 4 races on one ballot. So we have mayor, public advocate, comptroller, and council member. Having just seen a sample ballot today, there will be 3 races on the front side. So it will have mayor, public advocate, and comptroller. But you will need to flip over your ballot in order to vote for borough president and city council member. And so just as you see here, the candidates will be in rows and you will go column by column, picking your first choice, your second choice, your third choice, and so on. Keep in mind that the non-ranked choice voting elections, because there are some on the ballot, will be on a separate page. So the races for district attorney, for judge, and for judicial slate will be on an entirely separate ballot page. So your ballot will be 2 pages, and at least one of those, actually I think where you are, probably both of those will be double-sided. So you'll need to turn over your ballot in order to continue to vote. So as we saw in the mock election, the counting rounds only kick in if no candidate receives 50% plus 1 of the vote. So for those of you who've paid attention to elections in other parts of the city, in Queens, we had 2 special elections earlier this year, one of which one of the candidates won outright with 60% of first choice votes. So it never went into the rounds that we saw in the mock election that we just did. So if no candidate receives 50% plus 1 of the vote, of first choice votes, we go into the rounds that we saw. In accordance with state law, the winner will not be declared until all votes are counted. That is at least a 3-week process because state law mandates that the Board of Elections is not able to start counting absentee votes until 7 days after Election Day. They're not able to start counting military's overseas ballots until 13 days after Election Day. And then there is what we call the cure process, the cure period, in which someone who votes absentee, but maybe makes a mistake on their envelope, they forget to sign it, or the signature doesn't match, they have about a week in which they can fix that problem on their envelope to ensure that their vote counts. Now, once all of that is done, that's about a 3-week process. The rounds under ranked choice voting take no additional time. They'll simply be hitting the button on a keyboard. And so it takes about 30 seconds to run all the tabulations for citywide, for all the offices in the city. Once that's done, the round by round totals will be released to the public in a visually appealing format, probably somewhat similar to the bar graphs we saw in the mock election. Now, what you will see on election night is very similar to what you've always seen. So you will see just the first choice votes amongst voters who voted either in person early voting or voted in person on election day. And that is what you will see until we hit that 3-week mark when the final results are released. So why should you use your rankings? We like to say it gives you more choice and more power. More choice because the more people that you rank on your ballot, the longer your ballot continues to work for you and the more of a voice you have in the process. And more power because ranked choice voting forces candidates to reach out to every single voter. No longer can a candidate be elected with just that small subset of voters, that small block of voters that they have in the past. Even if your favorite candidate doesn't win, you'll still have a say in who's elected. You can vote your conscience without worrying that you're wasting your vote. And ranking a second, third, fourth, or fifth choice candidate will never hurt your number one, your favorite, because those rankings only kick in if your first choice candidate has already lost the race and been eliminated. So let's just really quickly go through some frequently asked questions and we're almost done. So how many candidates do I rank? You can rank up to 5 or as few as you'd like. Do I have to use all 5 rankings? No, you can still vote for just one candidate if you like, or again, up to 5. Can I rank a candidate more than once? This is important. Ranking a candidate more than once will not help your favorite candidate. Remember, your vote stays with them until they've lost the race and already been eliminated. So you're ranking them a second or third time is not some magical cure that will bring them back from the dead of the race. They're done. They've been eliminated already. Instead, what you're doing is hurting your opportunity, your chance to have a further say in that election because you're wasting a ranking when you could be ranking someone else. And lastly, does it hurt my favorite candidate to have a second choice? Again, no. Your second, third, fourth, or fifth choices only kick in if your favorite candidate has lost the race and been eliminated. So what are the core things to remember as we walk away from this session? Starting this year, starting in June, you will have the opportunity to rank your top 5 candidates in our local primary and special elections for mayor, comptroller, public advocate, borough president, and city council. You can still vote for just one candidate or up to 5, and you should rank your ballot because there's no more worrying about wasting your vote, accidentally helping to elect someone we don't support, someone splitting the vote, or someone being elected with less than a majority. So this presentation, along with the video I showed, and one-pagers available in 13 different languages, are all on our website, rankthetvotenyc.org. And you can request a training like this, or we have an extended training on the website, or you can email us at info@rankthetvotenyc.org. With that, I will open it up to Q&A, and I see Ms. Brown has her hand up.
Yeah, we're going to have, Sean, I'm going to.
Yes. Good evening. This is Mrs. Brown. Thank you, Sean, for the presentation. I'm somewhat confused when it comes to communities of color. Do you have any data that shows how ranked choice voting affects communities of color, please?
Definitely. So ranked choice voting is actually used by the Department of Justice as a solution to Voting Rights Act violations, specifically in terms of the election of people of color into office. So what we've seen nationwide is that candidates of color win at greater levels under ranked choice voting. We also see voters of color are more likely to rank their full number of candidates and prefer ranked choice voting to the old voting system. In New York, in the 4 special elections that have been held so far, we've done exit polling, and 67% of Black voters said they prefer ranked choice voting to the old voting method. That number is even higher among Asian Pacific Islander voters, and about the same amongst Hispanic voters. We also found that 95% of voters said they found the ballot easy to complete. And in Queens, about 62% of voters ranked 2 or more candidates. In the Bronx, it was closer to 78% of voters ranked 2 or more candidates. But of those people who only chose 1 candidate, in both instances, about 70% of those voters said there was only 1 candidate that they liked on the ballot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, Sean, I saw, in fact, let me introduce myself. I realized I hadn't. I'm Sherry Weiner, and I'm co-chair, and my co-chair is Anthony Cohn, who's on the meeting too. I saw the ballot for this election, and as you said, the number of candidates are unbelievable. And I've been following the election, yet I don't even know all the people. I think it's going to be very hard. I think what probably will happen is that people will vote maybe for 1 or 2, and then I can't imagine that people are going to really vote for all 5. Have you found that to be a problem where there are so many candidates?
We have not. Keep in mind, in the special elections that took place, you had anywhere from 7 to 16 candidates on a ballot.
Yeah.
And again, in the Bronx, where you have the most number of candidates on a ballot for both of their special elections, 78% of voters ranked 2 or more people. And what we found is actually largely people either rank or vote for 1 person, or they fill out their ballot and vote for the complete 5.
But they don't have to vote. But you said they don't have to vote for 5. They
don't have to vote for 5, but they have been.
Uh-huh.
There's very little in between there. There's very few people who vote for 2 or 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
A large number that vote for 5 or vote for 1.
Okay. Anthony, you usually handle the questions. I don't know.
Oh, sure. I can do that.
You see,
I'm happy to. It looks like we have Ed Hartzog is up next.
Hi, Sean. Thanks, Anthony. That's a great presentation. And apologies if you covered this. I was stepped out for a moment for just a second, and so if you answered this question, my apologies for making you answer it again. On the specials that we've had in the city, you had Jim Gennaro. He won outright with 61%, so that sort of doesn't really count. We didn't kick into ranked choice voting. We had the other 3, and I think the first place, the person who ended up in first after the initial ballot went on to win. And I was curious, with your years in San Francisco, where you had this for a while, have a larger sample size. What is the rate in terms of people starting in first, ending in first with ranked choice voting?
So it's actually about 96% of the time, the candidate who is leading in first choice votes ends up winning. But what you'll see is that person ends up winning not with 20% of the vote, but maybe 60% of them. And so that shows voters being able to coalesce around that winner compared to, them going into office thinking that 80% of voters dislike them and that, they're having to build those relationships in office compared to out on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
But I will say, it's interesting being in the Bay Area, the overwhelming majority of races where the second place or third place candidate has ended up winning has been in Bay Area cities. And so I think that is greatly due to the diversity of those districts and the cities that it's taking place in. You know, as much as I love some of the other places where ranked choice voting is in effect, they're fairly homogenous. They're not diverse like New York is or like San Francisco is or other parts of the Bay Area.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Was at listening to a seminar earlier in the year, the city bar on this, a professor from San Francisco State University, his name escapes me now. But anyway, he did a presentation about it and his research. And I don't know, I'm still not sold. You know, anything that gets people to participate more, I'm all for that. But I'm a little more skeptical of it. But I won't take up everybody's time. But I'm not completely sold on it myself. I think it's a little bit of a solution in search of a problem sometimes. Anyway, thanks for the info though on the first place and the movement. It's a great presentation, and then like I said, I hope this increases more voter turnout. I'd be all for that.
Definitely. I will say I know who you're talking of. I can never remember his name either.
Yeah,
it's interesting. He actually, so he did one survey in 2000 before ranked choice voting was even implemented. And so his study has actually never been published or peer reviewed. It's just something he came up with. So it's interesting seeing him making the rounds again. But definitely, you know, I have seen the benefits of ranked choice voting across the country.
Okay.
Thank you, Ed. And next we have Rita, if you could unmute her.
Hi, Ed, and thank you for the presentation. As a poll worker for a few years, I will tell you that it's very difficult when you have a ballot to get people to turn over. That's number one. But number two, I think I hear an echo, is that you're going to find that people are going to vote their first choice is who's ever in first choice or second choice, or so they're going to vote for them straight across, you know, instead of doing it only once. And of course, a person can only get 3 ballots. Those are the things that have to be conveyed to the voter about. You can only vote in one column once for that person, and 2, you have to turn your ballot over.
Definitely. So I will say we've actually worked very closely with the BOE on the design of the new ballot, and they've actually gotten quite a bit of kudos in the last couple of days for the ease of the new ballot and the instructions that are included in it. What we found in the special elections, again, was 95% of voters saying that they found the ballot easy to understand and complete. And so that added on with the new instructions that folks will get, they will get not only the privacy sleeve that their ballot comes in, will be entirely covered in ranked choice voting instructions. There will be banners in every location. And once they go into their voting booth to vote, there will be a huge poster in front of them of instructions on ranked choice voting, including instructions to flip over the ballot. So we're definitely excited about all of that because that has not happened in the past in terms of instructions for voters on ballots, on how to complete any ballot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. I have a question. And it seems dumb to me, but actually my son, who is an extremely intelligent person, posed this question. Is there any reason why you would want to rank someone you don't like at all? Let's say that there are, whatever there are 15 or 20 or 30 people running for mayor. And let's say that there's somebody you really don't want to be mayor. Does it make sense? Is there any logic to putting him on your ballot at all?
No, and I think I said it during my presentation. You never vote for someone you don't like. You know, if you only like 3 people in a race, if you absolutely hate everyone else or dislike everyone else, then you only rank those 3 people on your ballot. You never want to give someone you do not like a vote. Because should, you know, the other people that you like on your ballot not make it and be eliminated, you're now increasing the ability of the person you don't like to win. So definitely,
thank you.
Do not include them on your ballot.
Thank you. It was completely counterintuitive, but he heard it somewhere, so I thought I would try and ask. Thank you.
People like to overthink ranked choice voting. And they like to out-strategize it and try to figure out ways to take advantage of it, and none of that works. Ranked choice voting is about voting your values and voting your heart. It's about no longer having to choose the lesser of evils, and it's about no longer having to strategize about who you vote for. It's about voting for the people who talk to your issues and your values.
Okay, thank you. That is actually, the whole presentation has been very clarifying, I think.
Yeah.
Certainly for me. And it's been extremely helpful. Thank you. Okay.
I don't look any more questions. I thought we'd spend a little bit of time on absentee ballot. I know Sean touched it on a little. Sean, do you want to, I just saw a piece that everybody, well, first of all, everybody can vote by absentee again this year because of COVID. And the date to apply for your absentee ballot is June 15th, but I just read it may change to June 7th to give the post office more time to deliver the ballots. Do you know anything more about that, Sean?
No, just exactly what you said.
Yeah.
There is a website. If you go to nycabsentee.com, that is where you can request your absentee ballot. So you can file the application. You can request the absentee ballot. They also, which I think is really cool, give you the chance to track your absentee ballot. So from the time you request it, you can see it going through the whole process until it hits the mail and then is eventually delivered to you. So it's kind of like tracking an Amazon package or UPS post package. It's pretty cool.
Well, great. Well, you know, I'm looking at the number of attendees, which is much lower than we usually get. I think that may be a good sign that people have really gotten the message about Rank the Vote, and they've attended so many of these meetings. So I think that's good. We will be repeating this meeting again on June 8th, right before early voting starts, to give people, if they have any questions, to do that. And I guess if we're all finished with our questions, I want to thank my co-chair, Anthony Cohen, also thank Max and Will and the members of the task force who are participating. But the fact that as I said, the numbers are much lower than we usually have, I think that means we're doing our job, or at least at least Sean's doing his job, getting the message out about ranked the choice voting. But I think this presentation that you made just really helped clarify it, and hopefully we can now go out to the community and give them more information. So with that, Sean, again, thank you. And thank you for jumping in. And if you see Susan, tell her I hope things go, well for her. And with that, Anthony, I think we'll say
I
good
think
night.
we can. Yes.
Okay, everybody, an early evening. So thank
Early
you all.
dismissal.
Okay, thank you all. Good night.